Hello and welcome to another edition of Professor Speaks. Our topic today is Epi-Pen, but before we get into that, I'd like to remind you to hit like, subscribe, and hit the little bell for notifications. Hello and welcome to another edition of Professor Speaks. My name is Alex Hernandez. Alongside me as always is Dr. Craig Stern. And today we're going to be talking about Epi-Pen. So for the folks at home, what is Epi-Pen?
Epi-Pen is adrenaline. It's a drug that is used for people that have allergic reactions or have difficulty where they have an allergic reaction where their throat swells up and they can't breathe.
Okay.
And so their whole respiratory system kind of goes into collapse and they need to open it up. And what epinephrine does, commonly known as adrenaline, kind of opens up all of those passages so someone can breathe easier.
So is there certain kinds of allergic reactions, or is it all kinds of anything that closes up the throat? Is it only
anything that closes up the throat? I mean, it could be a peanut allergy. It could be a very severe sting from an insect. It could be any kind of allergy. Anything that restricts the trachea and the respiratory system so that you just can't get air in.
All right, so now that we got the technical stuff out of the way, you had brought up this topic and you wanted to talk about it today. And what was the main reason for that?
Well, it's all over the news. It's all over the media, especially with school just starting, that there's a huge issue on shortage of Epi-Pen.
Okay.
And the question is, one, why? And then two, what do you do about it?
Right.
So let's deal with why for a moment. There's been all kinds of people pointing fingers at who the offenders are, and in reality, everybody has a piece of this thing.
Okay. Everybody
meaning drug manufacturers, and some manufacturers have gotten a bit greedy about all of this. There's been issues with regard to pharmacies where they've argued that some pharmacies have gotten some more costs than other pharmacies. Some of the middlemen, wholesalers, etc., have identified that they're making out of it. Some people have pointed fingers at the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, that they put significant restrictions on allowing new generics to enter the market, so they've restricted the marketplace. Some of them have also argued that they put quality standards on manufacturers so that they made it harder to manufacture. So at the end of the day,
the shortage is linked to price, it sounds like.
The shortage is dealing with price. It's also dealing with availability. And so at the end of the day, everybody can point fingers, but at the end of the day, everybody's involved. And everybody has a piece of this thing of what goes on. So that's kind of the overall why. Clearly, there are other things that are, people have argued about lack of transparency in the system, and they're right. So part of this you don't know, but there's enough information out there where effectively everybody's part of this whole thing.
And this transparency thing seems to come up more often now than I've ever heard in the past, because the LA Times released an article earlier today about transparency problems and the problems with prices going up on other drugs, not just epinephrine. So
absolutely.
Or Epi-Pen.
Sorry. Absolutely. And two things have happened. One is when the cost of drugs was somewhere in the range of $135 for a branded prescription a month. Generic prescriptions at about $22 a month. It was expensive, but it was still affordable.
Right. When
people began to raise these prices and took prices that maybe cost $85, $95 for epinephrine, or even if you bought it in an ampule, you could get it for about $1.50. And then started to increase the prices to $350, $600, etc. Then we were attacked with, not only is it expensive, but in some cases unaffordable, and in other cases, the trend of the increases happened so fast. Some people would argue that there were problems in getting the materials, because it's one thing to get the drug, which is a fairly inexpensive drug, even though prices have increased.
Right.
But there were costs to making the injector. Pieces of the injector were more expensive to get, and as a result of that, many of the manufacturers were waiting for those pieces in order to be able to put these things together. Either way, There's a shortage. Everybody's now aware of the shortage. The government is trying to deal with it, and we'll talk in a minute about what's happening and what people are doing. But that's the fundamental issue. Everybody's at fault. Nobody's is immune from this whole thing.
Right. So does insurance typically cover Epi-Pen and other adrenaline products?
Insurance in general does.
Mm-hmm.
However, different insurances cover different manufacturers' product.
Right.
So some may have one particular manufacturer's product but not cover another one. And so as a result of that, there may be some problems with availability of trying to get the Epi-Pen that's covered by your insurance. So that may be a problem.
The reason why I bring that up is because the price increase might not even get passed down to the patient.
It may not.
The patient might not even see it or not even aware of that there is a price
They
increase.
may not. They may not. And on the other hand, they may be caught where they have to pay the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends on what goes on. But there are because everybody's involved, everybody has a piece of a solution to this thing.
Right.
And certainly we should talk about that.
Okay, then what are some of these solutions you're talking about?
Well, if you're the FDA, they've come out and identified that people are allowed to use it past the expiration date. So if the expiration date, for example, was today, they're allowing people to use these within a year after. So they've tried to expand the expiration date. That's one thing. The FDA has tried to open up and release generics faster so that there is more availability of product.
Mm-hmm.
But because of consolidation of manufacturers, because some of these products are not huge sellers all year round,
right?
There hasn't been a great interest in trying to produce these kind of products all the time, because you're not treating diabetes or hypertension or hyperlipidemia or whatever, or asthma, so you don't get that immediate interest.
There's
in
not
what
a lot
goes
of
on.
chronic users.
No, hopefully not. Certainly, most people get it and they hold on to it and they keep it in their bag or otherwise, or at school or something like that. So this is a preventative, and it's not a huge market for it, so they haven't done it. Third thing that people are doing is trying to offer multiple different options, and manufacturers have come up with coupons.
Mm-hmm.
Many of them have done price comparison and some price wars on it, where one will have a cheaper, another one will have a bit more expensive one, etc. So there is a bit of a price war going on, but the problem is it's not made by that many manufacturers right now. So the FDA is trying to open it up where there'll be more generic manufacturers that can open this up, produce it, and get this whole inventory going, because it's of such major concern. Clearly, the parents who have children that need it, whether asthmatic or whether there are issues with regard to allergies or otherwise.
So it's not really a lack of materials that is causing the shortage.
Well, there may be on certain products, but right now,
as far as Epi-Pen goes,
right now, Epi-Pen is one manufacturer. Mm-hmm. There are other manufacturers of the product, or in other products that are exactly the same thing. There's no difference here. Adrenaline, epinephrine is epinephrine is epinephrine. Mm-hmm. There may be some issues in differences in the injector and the way it injects, and some insurance companies may pay for one but not the other. But the idea right now is to get a lot of it out there so that people have a wider selection in order to deal with it. And as I say, manufacturers have tried to offer coupons and the rest to try and cut down on the cost of these things.
Now, going back to your first solution, which was FDA extending the expiration date for some of this epinephrine that people have got prescribed, are there any potential problems that can happen from letting patients do that?
Well, there's always a theoretical problem, but in this particular case, the potential problems are minor. Okay. The general issue here is, do drugs expire as soon as the bottle says that they expire? Okay. And the answer is that in order to be approved, in order to get your packaging approved, the FDA looks at a given product. You have to do stability studies to show that the product is still stable after a specific period of time. And then after that, on the label, on the FDA approved label, then it identifies that you can't use it after that. In fact, the drug is still available in many, many cases for these drugs to be used after the fact. Not 10 years after the fact, right? Maybe a year, perhaps 2 years, etc. There's certainly been studies to show that stability can be extended. And typically, it's not something you want because you get a new prescription, a refill, or otherwise to deal with it. In the case here, though, where it isn't available, then it does matter. Epinephrine is in a closed system, so it's not available to the air. It's not available to other things that would degrade it, heat or otherwise. So presuming the people are protecting it, keeping it well stored, etc., then they are allowing for people to be able to use it after the expiration date. But for a year, perhaps a bit longer, but certainly not 10 years after the expiration date.
Right. So what can the patients do at home, or what can anybody at home who have an allergy and may need to potentially get an epinephrine shot or something like that? What can the patients do at home to battle this story?
Well,
this shortage.
Shortage, yeah. One thing is we gave to him, so it'll be attached to the Professor Speaks.
Producer M will attach it.
Producer M will attach a bunch of these sites so that people have more sites. Clearly, with the internet, people have more information than they ever had. Okay. So on one level, you have to go to the internet. You have to see what's available, try and make appropriate phone calls. It's frustrating in many cases and is a problem. In many cases, some insurance may have to be a bit more, you may have to appeal certain issues in insurance in order to get certain products available, etc. But you need to do price comparison. You need to take a look and see where coupons are available that can cut down on the cost. You need to talk to the pharmacies to see who is available or where the product is coming from. They can look at their wholesalers and see what's available. They need to take a look at their insurance company and see what products they say are available. And if they're not available, they need to alert the insurance company that other products that are not on the formulary, not available, are there. Bottom line, this is a time where people have to get involved. I'm not happy about it. I'm not trying to be an apologist. I certainly don't think it's the right thing to do. But in a case where there is a shortage, things have to happen. And the main issue is you need to be very proactive. You need to get out there. You need to make the calls. You need to find coupons. You need to find the pharmacies that have it available. And those pharmacies may not have it available in your immediate area, so you may have to go farther afield in order to try and get the product so that you've got it.
And just because I'm curious, we've talked in the past about Amazon, online retailers like Amazon and Walmart who are getting into this business of shipping pharmaceutical products or devices and things of that nature. Would Epi-Pen qualify as one of those things, or epinephrine in general? Well,
right now, Amazon is not licensed to deal with products other than medical devices in the 26 states that they have a wholesale license. So they're not licensed themselves to deal with it. Now, they just bought PillPack, which is a pharmaceutical pharmacy, a mail-order pharmacy, based in New Hampshire, etc. So they have the capability of being able to get into this, but they're very new. They're very, they're at the beginning of the line here to be able to look at to see a result. I would heavily emphasize, however, that it's entirely correct, the concern over Amazon getting into the marketplace, a major one, because they're bringing their expertise of volume buying, certainly in distribution, into that market, and taking a market that in general was not very efficient and has not been very efficient for a long time, certainly since World War II, and to make it more efficient by dealing with the distribution. But they're in competition. Walmart is certainly there. They do own pharmacies. They do own distribution. So they are in it now, today.
Right.
Costco is in it now, today. And so are other deep discounters that are already have pharmaceutical licenses and products to deal with. So it's not just an Amazon issue. Amazon's very important. I'm not trying to demean it.
They're in the news a lot now. They are coming up.
They are, and I've written about it, and certainly we've addressed it.
Of course.
But Amazon is not the only player here. There are other players. Walmart just bought the largest internet player, the Amazon player of India. So they're building that expertise so that they can be in competition. So there's going to be a very competitive marketplace of people trying to bring the efficiencies of higher technology, digital technology, distribution mechanisms into the market. Will it solve the immediate problem with regard to Epi-Pen? No, it won't.
No.
But it does demonstrate that this is not just a world that is based on exactly where you live and not out of the area. This is bringing the entire country, and in some cases the entire world, into this market as everybody is trying to compete.
And overall, it could be a benefit to the consumer or the patient.
It'll be a huge benefit. It'll be a huge benefit.
All these competing businesses are going to want the lowest price for the consumer and the patient just to earn the business.
Yes, they will.
Yeah, that's good. Anything else you would like to add before I sign us off?
No, I would just like to add something, and that is we're not apologists. We're not here to make excuses for the marketplace or otherwise. We're looking at this and dealing with this as observers, but also people that deal with it from a population standpoint. This is nothing to demean. It's certainly nothing to diminish. It is a problem. There's no question about it. But people, unfortunately, have to be very proactive. You've got to look in your neighborhood. You've got to look outside your neighborhood. You've got to look to see what's available everywhere, see what you can do, in price comparisons. We'll add a bunch of areas attached to this to give you some other options and ideas. But there's no wrong idea. The idea that gets you to a drug that is in low supply, because it's not just a cost issue, it's an access issue as well as to where you can get it. This is where everybody has to be proactive to deal with this problem.
Sure. Thank you very much, Dr. Stern. And that's all we have for you this week. I would like to remind you to go to ProPharmaConsultants.com. Also, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button and hit the little bell for notifications. We'll see you next week.